I took Aurora to a top 8 at Battle Hardened Columbus this past weekend, and it was really awesome to top 8 my first Battle Hardened, but it's also a really good feeling to know that new heroes like Aurora can hang with some of the most powerhouse heroes we've had over Flesh and Blood's history, like Starvo, Chain, Icelander, Lexi. Knowing that Aurora can hang in there is really good feeling. We're going to talk about the deck today, what changes I would make going forward, and why I think Aurora has the power to be a mainstay in Living Legend. Thanks for stopping by, guys. I hope you enjoy the video. Round 1, I got paired into an Icelander, and I actually got paired into somebody that I knew from some of the Facebook groups, so it was pretty cool to get to meet them and get to chat with them a little bit. But early on in the game, my opponent really made some mistakes, and it allowed me to get that like 15 to 20 point life lead that I was really looking to get and stay ahead. My opponent also never hit me with any crazy disruption. Like they threw an Ether Ice Vein at me one turn, and I, gave up a blue, and I gave up the Shock Charmers to be able to stop it. So I was able to really stay ahead most of the game. And when when an aggro deck's up 8 to 28, unless Icelander's really in that spot where Channel's about to like dominate and take over, there really wasn't a lot my opponent could do from there. I was kind of in the driver's seat, and it did space out very well for me where I drew like a blue in every hand. So I was really able to, just keep control of the game and not get blown out by a channel like Frigid or anything crazy that could have popped up there. And we were able to take down round 1. Round 2, I got paired into a Prism. Honestly, the early game really just benefited me with some bad draws for my opponent is really how it breaks down. On turn 2 of the game, my opponent drew 4 instants, and I had a hand that pushed like close to 20 points of damage. So going into turn 3, my opponent puts an Arclight Sentinel into play, and I have like a 20 point life lead. So it was really just too much of a buffer for them to catch me from there. And I just kept my foot on the gas, and I was able to close it out in round 2 and take down Prism. Round 3, I had the chance to play against the pitch stack. Patrick was actually playing on Kano. So this is pretty much just a race to see who can get there first. And on like the second turn of the game, I put myself in a position where all I had was a red Flittering Charge in hand. And Patrick actually knew that that was all I had in hand because I had revealed it. I was going to try an Arsenal and set up. And he went for the kill with me being at like 40. Now, he had a chance where he really could have done some crazy stuff, I think, but there was an Eye of Ophidia on top in like the middle of his combo turn. And this is after he had used, after he had used all of his equipment. He had used Striders, he had used Hat at this point, and had really just like shut his turn down, and he was only able to deal like 6 points of damage to me. So when this was over, at like the end of the second turn, he was like at 19 and I was like at 34, and a lot of his equipment was gone, which really gave me a lot of agency in the game to like pick my spots and really get what I was looking for. And then a couple turns later, he drew like a triple red hand, and I had the lightning press to put lethal on the stack, and there just wasn't anything he could do, and I was just able to close it out pretty early on there. I think it was like turn 4. It was really just one of those games where we just raced. Round 4, I played against Zen. Zen feels like a tough matchup after looking at it from this past weekend. My opponent had their big pop-off combo turn on like turn 4. I did end up drawing into like my big pop-off combo turn on turn 5, but just being a turn behind like that kind of just killed me. I fell down to like 1 and had to block with multiple cards from hand, and like I was blocking the rest of the game until I died. It was kind of unfortunate the way it worked out, but I think in that matchup you're forced to just try to bring in combo and hope you can get there, and unfortunately my opponent got there faster. Round 5, I got paired into my second Icelander of the tournament, which I'm going to be honest feels like a pretty decent amount of gem luck at this point, because I wasn't expecting there to be a lot of Icelanders this past weekend, but there was quite a few of them there. So playing 2 Icelanders in a 7-round tournament on the aggro deck of my choice felt like a really good pick for me. Getting a little bit of gem luck there. My opponent had a lot more disruption than my first opponent did. There were multiple channel like Frigids played. I had to play through an Insidious Chill and 2 Amulets of Ice, so there was a lot more disruption and the game was a lot closer. But in the end, I had a pretty big ball lightning turn where I was able to push a lot of damage and really force every card out of my opponent's hand and disrupt their arsenal, which really put me in the driver's seat, and we were just playing the game out until I was able to push a break point and close the game out. Round 6, I played against a Starvo, and this was actually kind of cool to play against because it was a different build than you're used to seeing, because most Starvos are on Crown of Seeds, Tunic, Crater Fist, and or Gauntlets of Iron Will, and then they're on Lightning Greaves and Stalagmite. My opponent was actually on Balance of Justice, Tectonic Plating, Gauntlets of Iron Will, Lightning Greaves, and they were still on Stalagmite. And it was really cool to see this defensive build of the deck, because when I was talking to my opponent, he was telling me that he thought it was really interesting to have the defensive build into some of these more aggressive decks and not really play the Starvo Lottery as much. Now, with me having Flicker Wisp in my deck, I really don't think that benefited my opponent. I think against most other Auroras, it would have been good for him, but the way the game lined up, I was really able to get on the front foot. A couple of well-timed Sink Belows really saved me from a naked Spinal Crush one turn. So just some stuff like that really lined up, but you know, the Ball Lightning, Arcane, Flicker Wisp damage, like on one big turn, was able to put my opponent down to 6. And then I drew into a double Arc Lightning hand that was really just able to take every card out and close the game late in the game. Round 7, I'm already locked for top 8 at this point, but I did pair into another Starvo. Now, this Starvo did not take the same approach. They were on a much more like gambling, like let's roll the lottery kind of play. And let me tell you, it really panned out. It really panned out for my opponent. I think we played like a 6-turn game, maybe 7 turns, and almost every turn but one was a Starvo fuse into something. Now, one turn it was like a Starstruck, you know, or something really positive. Like in some turns it was just the Autumn's Touch, but still it was a lot of damage. I did have a turn where I was able to, like, you know, play out an Arc Lightning and get a bunch of damage through and really try to make some good stuff happen there. But it really just, it wasn't enough. Just getting Starvoed that many turns in a row was just too backbreaking, and I wasn't able to keep up, and I ended up finishing Swiss 5-2. In top 8, I played against Zen, and it was against Dan who ended up winning the whole thing. Big congrats to him. He played very well. He took a very interesting approach to our matchup also. He brought in Tide Flippers, which I think is correct to have Arcane Barrier against me, and he was playing Mask of the Pouncing Lynx to go get Assault the Wound to try and just deal a bunch of damage in one turn, and that was... I'd not seen that approach before, and it was really interesting, and it was also very powerful because he had a very early pop-off turn with Stubby Hammers, and he was able to push through a ton of damage. I think he had quad blues in hand, and he still pushed like 28 damage, and it just put me too far behind to catch up. I did have a little bit of a turn where I tried to catch back up and make something happen, but it was too little too late, and I just couldn't get back into the game in time, and Dan just kind of ran me over, so... Making it to top 8 was really cool, but it came to an end very quickly in top 8. Let's start at the top and let's work our way down. First up is Balance of Justice. This is a great headpiece. I see this staying in the deck. There are a lot of decks in LL that are playing Art of War or Toma Fiendel or something else that draws cards. Balance of Justice is just a really good generic headpiece, and I definitely see it staying in the deck. Being able to draw that extra card after blocking is great value. This is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but Tunic, I didn't use it one time all weekend. I didn't play it in any matchups. Like, every time I wanted a chess piece, I wanted Carapace or I wanted Ironweave. Ironweave's for the combo, and Carapace is to block against, like, you know, Starvo or the decks that are trying to throw these haymakers against you. And I'm going to be honest, I just don't think Tunic cuts it in the deck. So I'm probably going to cut Tunic from the list for a different card in the sideboard that we'll talk about later, but... Tunic didn't get used all weekend, and it hasn't really impressed me so far. Grasp of the Arknight. This card's an absolute staple. I don't know why you'd ever cut this card. It's just probably the best Runeblade arm piece that you can play. It blocks for 3, makes rune chance when we need it to. It pairs well with Arc Lightning. Like, this card does it all, so Grasp is going to be a staple. Snapdragon Scalers is pretty obvious at this point. I know I was pretty against Snapdragon Scalers, and I was pretty much on the always play Lightning Greaves plan when Aurora first came out, but you know, you have to look for that Lightning Greaves target that you want to use to get your action point back with the instance, or you really need a Gone to Flash to make it worth it. Snaps is just more consistent and lets you like snap a snatch, you know, to be able to draw cards or do whatever you're doing. So Snapdragons just makes sense, and it's going to be very good. And I definitely see this staying in the deck. Starfall. A lot of people had originally asked me why we weren't playing Rosetta Thorn because it could probably be better. But the go again on Starfall is just absolutely insane. The value you get from this and Arc Lightning and Ball Lightning is just so powerful. Starfall is, in my opinion, in this build of Aurora, just better than Rosetta Thorn. I don't see myself playing Rosetta Thorn in this build. I really like Starfall, and I wouldn't change it at all. Arcanic Shockwave. Now, this card just being a 0 for 5 is really solid. It's a great card. It blocks 3. I like that about it. You know, with Aurora's ability to make embodiments of lightning, this card feels like a really good place in the deck. If there was anything that I might consider cutting, it might be this. I don't really know what we'd replace it with, but Arcanic Shockwave is a very good card that gets a lot of value, but I don't know, like sometimes it just felt like there could have been better things I could have been doing, or maybe I wanted more Go Again as opposed to Shockwave. This is the card that made it all happen this weekend. Ball Lightning is absolutely insane. Now, a lot of people have asked me why I was only on 6 copies of Ball Lightning, and to be honest, that was because I wanted to be on 3 Shockwaves at first, but after playing this weekend, I might go down to 2 Arcanic Shockwaves and play the 3rd Yellow Ball Lightning so that I'm on all 9. Ball Lightning was absolute powerhouse. This card was incredible. Like, I think it was a mistake to not have all 9 of them, and I might have done better in 2 other matchups if I would have had all 9 of them. It is worth noting that we are adding another card that does not block to our deck, but I think that Aurora is here to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to just have gas and play offense all the time. Burn Up and Shock is another card that's been an absolute staple. You can just get people randomly with the arcane damage aspect of the Shock. You can randomly end games with it at instant speed, which is really cool, but Burn Up is a card that people have to respect. Also, like the fact that this blocks 3 feels like it has to be an auto include. You're playing, in my opinion, a better Boom Grenade. Just looking at the Burn Up and Shock text, it feels like a better red Boom Grenade to me, so I really like this card being a 0 for 5 that blocks 3. It feels like an auto 3 of in the deck. A while back, I went down to 2 copies of Electromagnetic Somersault, and I'm going to be honest, the deck has felt so much cleaner ever since I was playing 2 copies. I know a lot of people are still playing 3 Somersaults, but I swear by 2. 2 feels very clean. It feels very good. It works very well with offense and defense. I don't think you need a 3rd. There are already a lot of cards in the deck that don't block or they have a 0 block value on them. So Electromagnetic Somersault feels very good to me. Having 2 of them is exactly perfect. I wouldn't add a 3rd. I wouldn't go down to 1. 2 feels like the perfect number. Electrostatic Discharge works very well with Flittering Charge and with Gone in a Flash. If you have a Gone in a Flash, an Embodiment of Lightning, and an Electrostatic Discharge, you have a 2-card 11, which is absolutely insane. But it also kind of speaks to the point that, you know, Aurora is a Rune Blade, and you need to be setting up her hero ability. Setting up arsenals is very important and things like that. So I think that Electrostatic Discharge fits into the deck pretty well. And like, you know, don't get me wrong, is this ever going to be a powerhouse of a card? No, absolutely not. But it's a very good card, and it enables our game plan and works with the instance matter side of what we're looking to accomplish. Enlighten Strike is a great card. There were a couple of times that I got hit with, you know, like a hypothermia or something that I couldn't really, like I wasn't able to generate a lot of Go Again because I needed to use my embodiment. So just being able to throw 7 was very good. E-Strike has a lot of value. If you're ever able to use it for Go Again off of an embodiment that you set up from the previous turn, then you're really in a good spot. E-Strike is just a very good, diverse card. It blocks for 3. This is an absolute staple of the deck. I don't ever see it leaving. Entwine Lightning, I'm going to say like 99.9% of the time has Go Again in one form or another. There has been one hand in like multiple months of playing Aurora that I've not been able to give this Go Again with. But Entwine Lightning just being a 0 for 4 with Go Again makes it a really good card, and it's just going to be a staple of the Aurora deck. Next up is Flittering Charge. Flittering Charge is just another 0 for 4 that has that like conditional Go Again. Now with a lot of the instants in the deck, it is very easy to meet that condition for what we're looking for. So Flittering Charge feels great. There's a really good play and feeling where you can lead on a Flittering Charge with multiple cards, and you can just like play a CLV in the reaction step to be able to give the Flittering Charge Go Again and set up that CLV on hit. So there's a lot of value there that you can get with Flittering Charge, and I think this card's very good and fits well into the deck. Gone in a Flash is one of those cards that is either really good or it's really not, to be honest. One of the best things you can do with this, in my opinion, is you can pitch stack Gone in a Flash with a blink, because it gives you a very powerful second cycle 2-card hand where you're able to Gone in a Flash, blink it back, Gone in a Flash. So it's a 2-card 8, which is really good. But a lot of times this card ended up blocking 3, or it was played early on in a turn off the back of an embodiment so that I could generate the lightning text for Starfall or to activate Aurora later in the turn. But one of the benefits and why we're probably always going to play this card is the fact that it blocks 3. Just makes it too good in my opinion. Lightning Press is something that I wasn't always very keen on at the beginning, but this card has been insane. Anytime you play a Ball Lightning and they go to block it, you can Lightning Press it and turn your Lightning Press into a 0 for 4, which is a very good feeling. Pushing the on-hit effect of Channel Lightning Valley, Snatch, Static Shock, Burn Up and Shock. Lightning Press does a very good job at facilitating that role. Also works very well with Flittering Charge to be able to give things go again. So Lightning Press has really become a very good card, and it's really grown on me over the last couple months, and I think this is an easy 3-of to keep in the deck. Lightning Surge. This is one of my favorite cards. Now, I think that I like this card so much because of my time playing Lexi, because one of the coolest plays you could make was to Arsenal Lightning Surge in Lexi, start your turn by activating Lexi to flip it up, give something go again, and have another 0 for 4 with go again, which is very powerful. But Lightning Surge is a great card to draw into off of an Enlighten Strike. It's a great Arsenal target. Like Lightning Surge just really fits the role, and it does exactly what we need it to. This card does have conditional go again, like most of the deck does, but still Lightning Surge is a great card. Ravenous Rabble is one of those cards that I have always hated to love, is the best way I can say it. The amount of times that this has been a 0 for 2 or a 0 for 3 inside of the Aurora deck has been a little disappointing, to be honest. Because, you know, there's not really that many blues and yellows in the deck, but it feels like it happens all the time where I reveal an Arc Lightning or I reveal a Blink or something like that, and I'm always just like, but it is what it is. The non-conditional go again is too solid. And also, like, if you do just hit a red, this can just be a 0 for 4. And, you know, throughout the course of a turn, you can somersault this back and continue to make it a 0 for 4, which is very good. But yeah, Ravenous Rabble, just, even though I really don't want to play this card sometimes, it feels like it's a necessary staple of the deck to make the game plan that we want function so that we can make everything happen. Snatch is too good not to play. Between Snapdragon Scalers and Aurora's Hero Text, Snatch is just an absolute staple. You know, playing this card in Fi, it was always a chain ender, but a lot of times we have embodiments at the start of the turn. So, you know, opening up on Snatch is very powerful if you have an embodiment, or if you're just okay with using your Snapdragon Scalers early on in the turn. But Snatch is a very, very powerful card, and I really like this card. It fits well into the deck. Static Shock is another great card. This being a 0 for 4/5 that blocks 3 is really powerful. The Lightning Flow text is very, very easy to turn on during a turn. This card's great. I really enjoyed it. In some situations, I honestly think it's almost better than Arcanic Shockwave, which I know is not true, because if you're able to fuse the Shockwave, it's just a 0 for 4, or it's a 0 for 5 if you can fuse Shockwave. And Static Shock has to have the on-hit effect. But there was a lot of times when I couldn't fuse Arcanic Shockwave because of Ball Lightnings and how the lines worked out, and needing to play my only Lightning card before I got to being able to fuse with the Arcanic Shockwave. So part of me thinks that there might be a world where I could see myself playing a third Static Shock and maybe cutting down on another Arcanic Shockwave, but I'm unsure on that. I would need to test that moving forward. Arc Lightning is our Aurora specialization. When you pair this with Ball Lightning, it is an absolutely insane amount of arcane damage that you can do. I was able to end multiple games with this combo where you park an Arc Lightning in your arsenal, and the second you draw Ball Lightning, you're just like, here we go. And you just pop off and go crazy and throw a ton of damage at your opponent. This granting something go again is also very powerful, because you actually have the play of playing Arc Lightning and then throwing Snatch with go again, or going E-Strike to draw a card with go again. So Arc Lightning is an extremely powerful card. And the one thing that I don't think maybe not everybody realizes, is something we found in testing, is that this Arc Lightning does say 1 damage to any target. You can clear off angels or dragons or, you know, Ashwings with this card. So it's something to keep in mind when you're playing and you're testing for your LL events coming up. Channel Lightning Valley, that like Channel Plunder Run has been absolutely insane. This card is crazy good. It's very easy to keep around for a couple of turns normally, sometimes more. There was a time when I had to pay into Icelander, and I was able to pitch 3 lightning cards and keep it around for an extra turn, which was really cool. But yeah, Channel Lightning Valley is an absolute staple. This card's never going anywhere. It's too good, it's too powerful, and it does too many things. I also love to Arsenal this card, because you can Arsenal it, and then someone thinks, oh yeah, I've got a Command and Conquer, I can try to get you here, and then you just flash in the CLV and it's just absolutely absurd. So this card's here to stay. Blink, I'm going to be honest, this feels like just one of the more powerful blues we can be playing, but it doesn't have that much of a utility. I didn't really get to use it to, like, you know, jump over an action point like around like Spectra or anything like that, which I was kind of hoping for this weekend. But this does pair very well with Gone in a Flash, and it's just a solid blue that also happens to be lightning, so it does pitch to keep our channel Lightning Valley around, which is really what we use it for most games. This card has uber impressed me, not only in Aurora, but in Living Legend in general. Most Starvo lists are playing 3 copies of this card now. Like, this card is absolutely insane. It's just the fact that, like, it can have Go Again and it can give something else Go Again is crazy good. It's a blue and it blocks 3. Like, this card is an absolute house of a card. This is like one of the best blues we can be playing in the deck. Current Funnel is an absolute star, and there is no way that card's ever leaving the list. Lastly, let's talk about our tech cards in our sideboard here. I was on 2 copies of Command and Conquer. These were really to serve as poppers, and situationally in some matchups, I would bring them in. Just like if I was bringing in Warmonger's Diplomacy, I would consider bringing in Command and Conquers if I was going second. Now, as a general rule, they were just there for poppers, but it was in the back of my mind that going second and having a copy of Command and Conquer can be a very, very powerful play to try and throw your opponent off balance, because they're not expecting Command and Conquer for most Aurora lists, especially in LL, in my opinion. Sink Below was an absolute staple. A lot of people like to play Sigil of Suffering, but I'm going to be honest, I think the days of Sigil of Suffering are kind of over. I think Sink Below is just better in almost every instance, unless you're just going to get a CLV draw. Most decks are leaving some, they have a card in hand, they leave some resources floating. Like, I just don't think Sigil gets it done, and I think Sink Below was an absolute all-star. Having this into Starvo really bailed me out this weekend. Like, I think that my games would have gone differently, and we probably wouldn't be talking about my top 8 performance if I didn't have this card in the sideboard. Flicker Wisp is probably the card that was the most controversial for my sideboard as far as from like viewers and how I felt about it this past weekend. Flicker Wisp is an absolutely powerhouse of a card, and it's very good. I think this card should have been Sting of Sorcery, if I'm being honest. I just feel like this card, like Flicker Wisp was fine, but I think I would have been better off having Sting of Sorcery in the deck, because it would have given me copies of Arc Lightning 4 through 6 in all the matchups. And I'm really curious to know how I would have done into both of my Zen matchups if I had been on Sting of Sorcery and I had been able to try and draw into like the combo a little bit faster, and having copies of Arc Lightning and having copies of Sting of Sorcery might have let me get there a little bit faster. So I'm probably going to make the change of actually cutting Flicker Wisp and adding in Sting of Sorcery, just to be able to get that extra value that I want, to try and like give me a little bit of extra racing power early game, just seeing copies of Arc Lightning 4 through 6. I had talked earlier in the video about cutting Tunic. I think I would add the 3rd Command and Conquer. I didn't say that a second ago, but I think that's what I would do. It gives me an even sideboard into a lot of the matchups I'm looking to play. So if you have a lot of Prism in your area, or a lot of Dromai, I think that cutting Tunic to add a 3rd Command and Conquer is a very, very good play. And I think that sets you up for a much more consistent deck. The 2 copies of Poison the Well were strictly in there in case I played against a Oldhim. I think, honestly, after seeing Pat Eschke's Oldhim list this past weekend, I think you had to have the Poison the Well. I don't think we were going to get there without the Poison the Well, as far as like setting all this up and making this happen. Now, it's also worth noting that I think we were going to need the Flicker Wisp as well to be able to get there. So cutting that for the Sting into the Oldhim deck isn't that great, but the 2 Poison the Wells might just be able to get us there, honestly. It really depends on how the Oldhim player plays it and how risky they're willing to be. But Poison the Well didn't get played once this weekend, but I still think it's a necessary staple of the sideboard. The one of Warmonger's Diplomacy, I can't ever see myself cutting this, to be honest. This card's just too good. I really like Warmonger's Diplomacy. It's very good into Chain. It's very good into Viserai. Now, I didn't have a chance to play against either one of those decks this weekend, but it's worth mentioning there were 2 Viserais and there were 2 chains in the top 8. So I think having the one of copy of Warmonger's Diplomacy in the sideboard is very important, and I would keep that in moving forward, especially if at your skirmish you're expecting there to be Chain or Viserai there. These next 2 equipment kind of go together. Ether Ironweave pairs really well with Crown of Dominion. It gives you that extra value off the Arc Lightning combo turn that you're looking for to deal that extra damage, to be able to go over the top. Being able to deal 2 extra damage with the Arc Lightning and also being able to draw an extra card can really provide a lot of utility and really do a lot at trying to give you a front foot in a game. So I think Ether Ironweave and Crown of Dominion would stay. They're very powerful, and I think that they fit well into what the deck is trying to accomplish. It is worth noting that I did try playing Ether Ironweave and Crown of Dominion into Zin both times, and it did not work. So I think you would be better off running like Balance, Carapace, and Grasp, and then like Snaps in that matchup. But yeah, I think Ether Ironweave and Crown of Dominion is strictly for the Oldhim decks, so that when we're trying to like pop off with our combo turn, we have that extra damage and that extra reach to really try and get there against the life gain decks. Dyadic Carapace was an absolute all-star. This being AB2 and blocking into Icelander was so good. I played against 2 copies. Both the Icelander decks I played against were playing Bullander, and like honestly, this card's insane. Just being able to block with this card and still having AB2 for, you know, like the Ether Ice Veins or anything like that comes in is just so good. Dyadic Carapace felt so good. It was very powerful. This card, absolute staple. It's going to be in my list for a long time to come. Face Purgatory was also a card that impressed me this weekend. I have been running this card into certain matchups, but the fact that I played against 2 Icelanders this weekend meant that I played this card 2 times. On 2 separate occasions, I got to block with this, a 2-block, like a 2-block attack and a burn up and shock, and I got to get value out of denying my opponent an arsenal, and I got to draw an extra card. The Face Purgatory was absolutely insane. I know I've been back and forth on this card and haven't really had like a strong stance on where I would be and what I would like, how I would use this card, but Face Purgatory was an all-star this weekend, and it's going to be staying in my list for here to come. Lightning Greaves is really AB1, and it blocks for 1 in certain matchups. Against Viserai and Chain, Briar, you need AB1. So having this in is very good. It also blocks for 1, so it helps you cover up like a break point if you need it to, or anything like that. Lightning Greaves is good, and it's definitely going to stay in. Shock Charmers and Spellfray Tiara are also going into like similar matchups. We want this against Kano. Shock Charmers and Spellfray Tiara are only there for Kano. Kano is so powerful in Living Legend, in my opinion, that you have to have both of them. I don't really think you can consistently get there if you don't have Tiara and the Shock Charmers, in my opinion. Not against a very good Kano anyway. You know, so it's just my 2 cents on the whole matter. I've had some people disagree with me and say that they didn't need Shock Charmers or Tiara, but I definitely think they're necessary cards if you're looking to play against Kano in Living Legend. Guys, you can find my list from Columbus and my updated post-Columbus list in the description down below. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take it easy, guys.